Hi everyone. Thank you for being here today. Can you hear me in the back? All good? Perfect. So, okay, spoiler alert. I'm going to tell you my version about how the second age of cyberpunk will fail. But let's start from the beginning. So, thank you for the kind introduction. So, I'm a VC and a computer scientist by training. We invest in very early stage companies doing deep tech, anything around computer science. And this gives me the privilege of hanging out with the blockchain crowd and machine learning crowd on my everyday life. And I'll tell you a little bit about what I see there, both in terms of technology, but really in terms of culture. Because I think culture is the culture of technology is an underrated factor in these discussions. So I'm going to tell you a tragic comedy in 5 acts about how the internet has developed and will develop. So the internet was supposed to bring world peace. Why do I claim that? So imagine you're a kid in the 90s. So you're spending most of your time in your parents' basements, chatting with people from all over the world, in China and India, in this new thing called the internet. And this is on TV, just to kind of set the scene. It's the 90s, no one understands what the internet is, everyone's wearing weird clothes, people are asking for a Rachel haircut, and you're using this amazing new thing called the internet. On the left is IRC, it's this chat client. Think of Slack, but 30 years ago. And on the right is GeoCities, that's what web pages actually look like. And this is a do-it-yourself scene. Like, people are writing, coding their own HTML, and it's new, and it's exciting, and you spend your nights talking to people from the other side of the world. There's like 1 million internet users right now. It's nothing. But you know the great potential of this technology, and you're a social outcast because you're on this computer technical thing that no one understands. I mean, I'm speaking for myself, right? I was one of these kids. But you know that one day everyone will see it, and being on the internet will not be uncool, it will be the coolest thing. People will even share pictures from their vacations on the internet. And you're part of the cypherpunk movement, which is the social movement of the people who think this way, who are excited about the potential of the internet through cryptography, through computer science, to transform the world. And they write manifestos, because they have nothing else to do on Friday night. They write manifestos about how the future of the internet, and they write things like this. Governments of the industrial world, you weary giant of flesh and steel. I come from cyberspace, the new home of mind. On behalf of the future, I ask you of the past to leave us alone. You are not welcome among us. You have no sovereignty where we gather. Which right now kind of feels both disconnected but kind of sensible, but back then was an insane thing to talk about. Like, there's 1 million internet users. What are these people talking about? And this society has an ethos, and it's an ethos about do-it-yourself and about privacy and about creating new communities that are cross-world, cross-border. People are using pseudonyms, that's the culture. No one uses the real name. And you work on stuff, you imagine stuff like a worldwide network of sharing knowledge, something like Wikipedia, which was started in 2001. But already there was the inkling of something like this being created. And you imagine what would happen when the internet will take over the world. And the thing that obviously will happen is world peace and a world government. Why? Because you know that there's so much in common between you and your peers in China and in Russia and in South America. So you know that once everyone can talk to each other freely and easily, then clearly we will all understand each other and there will be world peace. However, and this is a big however, you know that this is not yet possible because there's terrible scalability. The Slashdot effect is this thing where Slashdot is the portal of the internet, and when something gets posted, everyone flocks and it crashes and the website is gone because you're hosting it yourself. The technical ability to host and serve large amounts of data doesn't exist yet. And even Twitter in its first days keeps dropping all the time. And you have this weird modem sound, and whenever anyone picks up the phone, you get disconnected. And the whole thing doesn't work, and this is what people think the internet looks like, right? So there's a huge disconnect between the promise and reality. And then GAFAM come, and they fix the internet, right? But it's a mixed blessing. So the internet does increase as we thought. The internet takes over the world, everyone uses Facebook, and all of the services that you use and you love come back in renewed versions that you don't really recognize anymore. So instead of GeoCities and LiveJournal where you host your blog, you get Facebook where people kind of come to Facebook and interact with each other. And instead of Couchsurfing, this beautiful service where people on Earth come and stay on each other's couches, you get Airbnb. And it's kind of familiar, but it's not the same. And the big difference is that these companies say their motto is don't be evil. In fact, Larry and Sergey specifically called out their future selves and said that advertising-funded search engines will be inherently biased. This is from the paper where they introduced Google in '96. But the reality is that these companies and these services have a very, very different state of mind. They require you to use your real name, for example, like Facebook does. And in general, basically, they put you in a henhouse, in a pen, where you are the property of Facebook and not the other way around. And so let's sum up until now. What happens is the internet provided communication, and that's what people took from it. But all of the ideology, no one cared enough about this to actually insist on it. So everyone is in their walled gardens around Facebook or Instagram or whatever, and we don't have a world wide web where people communicate without borders. The borders are not country borders anymore, they're technological borders. So on one typical day of the internet today, you start with Facebook, where Facebook optimizes your engagement, or YouTube optimizes because it's all based on advertising, we'll get to it. They're optimizing to increase your engagement, and they give you dopamine kicks whenever anyone likes your photograph. And there's a bunch of noise on Slack, which is the new IRC, but it's not for fun anymore, it's for work. And you sign terms of conditions and you don't understand, and you get a game and you get freemium games where you pay in order to keep getting these dopamine kicks. So this is not what we bargained for at all. We have a scalable internet, but it's not the internet we wanted. And the reason is that monetization is what's important on the internet, because all of these companies that made the internet work and made the internet scale, they needed to fund their engineers. They are very powerful entities, and they are based on VC funding, and they're based on making a large profit, and they're based on their success, not on our images of world peace. So in Hebrew we say, the surgery worked, but the patient died. That's what happened with the internet. So we have a David and Goliath game, but remember the cypherpunks didn't go away. They were there all along. And what they offer is a renewed hope in the form of cryptocurrencies. So remember, monetization is the key, but maybe there's a different way to monetize, not through advertising. Maybe if you could transmit money on the internet like you transmit data, maybe there's some chance for an alternative monetization scheme that can fix the internet and make it the cypherpunk dream, make a world economy, maybe not world governments anymore. Like governments, we're not sure what we think about governments anymore, but maybe a world economy, maybe a unified world that is working together collaboratively for a common goal. And Satoshi comes up, like Satoshi Nakamoto, a pseudonymous maybe group of people, maybe one person, computer scientist, comes up with a way to transmit value on the internet. And this thing explodes because it gives you, this is the Web3, this gives you new ways to monetize that are not through advertising, they're through direct interaction between agents, between people. So Satoshi Pay, for example, a Berlin-based company, is about microtransactions, but there's many other economic models of the internet. Ask me, I've given talks about this, look up token engineering, there's not enough time to talk about it, but crypto economics really, and tokens really propose exciting new ways to arrange the internet in a way that doesn't rely on advertising at all and creates new economies from scratch. So you get the ICO boom, you get people, the original cypherpunks coming and creating a new internet of money, of tokens that is offering a new model. And for example, this is maybe my favorite new cypherpunk, Zuko Wilcox, the creator of Zcash, which is a privacy-enabled currency, right? Because Bitcoin is not actually anonymous, it's pseudonymous, but we want anonymity. So Zuko comes up with Zcash with the help of great cryptographers, and there's a real revival of the cypherpunks, and there's a real hope for a world government, for a world economic system now. And people keep comparing the growth of crypto to the growth of the internet, right? Like the internet slowly grew, so will crypto grow and take over the world and save the internet. And we write manifestos again. After 10 years of stopping, we write manifestos like, we must recognize that only restoration of open source culture across the full spectrum of open source possibilities will allow humanity to harness the distributed intelligence of the collective and create the equivalent of heaven on earth. And if I was a historian of the internet, I would stop now. But my job as an investor is to try to predict the future, as hard as that could be. So I'm going to give you my guess about how the future is going to look. And my vision of the future is kind of bleak, because it is that we didn't really fix the problem. The surgery will again succeed, and the patient will again die. This time is a farce. Because what is happening, you remember the terrible UX, the terrible experience that users have had? Well, this repeats. You can't transfer Ether easily. Even people in the Ethereum Foundation find it very hard to use Ethereum. None of these platforms work very well. And you have really terrible scalability again. Bitcoin does 7 transactions a second, while Visa does 24,000. So you have the same exact problems. And there's very poor adoption. All of these platforms are used by only thousands of users every day. This doesn't mean they're bad. It means that they need a lot of work. But the problem is that, when we look at the future trajectory of cryptocurrencies needing a lot of work, the same thing will happen. The tragedy writes itself. You'll have a Web 4.0 funded by companies like Facebook and Visa and Stripe, that when adoption will increase, the problem is that as more and more users come and use the system, they will keep the easy and fun part, just like they did with the Web 2, right? But they will drop the ideological part. They will flock into the holding pens of the same entities that set up the Web 2. And what did we do then? So that's my kind of bleak version of the future. But I think the conclusion is not that all is lost. The conclusion is that we're working on the wrong trajectory. The trajectory is not to create technology. The trajectory is to change minds. The problem is the ideology is good, but people don't subscribe to it. So if we want to fix humanity, we need to convince people of ideology. It's a problem of politics, not of technology. Right? So if humans want to improve their situation, they need to work on it. They need to work as a group. They need to transcend divides. They need to collaborate together to create this new world that they want to live in, and they need to convince each other in order to do that. And the point is that technology can enable society to improve, but it's up to society to use technology and not the other way around. Right? So how do we do that? I don't know. We need public policy experts. We need people who are not engineers and creators of technology, but a much, much wider tent, because the point is that humanity must change itself. It's not enough to create technology and kind of let it fly. Thank you very much.